And now to talk more about the new 10-year education plan, we are now joined by Serafin Molina, the National President of Teachers, Inc. and a member of ENET Philippines' Education Cluster. Good morning, Serafin. Thank you for being here on Morning Matters.
Good morning. Thank you, Ma'am Pao, for this very important interview.
Ayan. Okay, so before we discuss this 10-year education plan, let's get to know ENET Philippines first. Explain to us what you guys do and who you represent.
Okay. ENET Philippines is short for Civil Society Network for Education Reforms. No, it's a national coalition of civil society organization or CSO focused on transforming Philippine education system. So it acts as policy advocacy network that one advocates for education reforms to make education more equitable, inclusive, and of higher quality. And it also works with government, communities, school, NGOs, and other stakeholders to influence education policy and practice. Also, it helps develop to promote alternative learning system to reach marginalized and excluded groups who might not be served by traditional schooling. It also engaged in budgetary advocacy, pressing for stronger investment in public education, including budget for learners with disability, alternative learning programs, and other specialized education initiatives. So usually, INIT is represented by, it's not a standalone charity or school, no? It's a network of civil society or organization that come together around shared goals in education, specifically it represents 100 members of the CSO of the Philippines that focus on education and community development and acts on behalf of the marginalized, excluded, and vulnerable sectors or the MEBs, groups who are often left behind by mainstream education system. Oh, yun po. INIT Philippines is a civil society coalition that pushes for fair, inclusive, quality education, especially for those who are often overlooked, and represents a broad range of community and advocacy organizations working together to shape education policy and investment across the Philippines.
So it's really the coming together of different sectors, no, Serafin? And it's very important because we are in the midst of an education crisis here in the Philippines. Alam naman natin yan lahat, ano? And now, ENET has called for the government for a whole-of-government approach in implementing this 10-year education plan. Tell us, how important ba is this 10-year education plan and how would it look like in practice?
This is very important. It's because as a result of the EDCOM2 report that we have what we know as the learning crisis, no? So we just came from the pandemic, and as a result of that pandemic, no, ang daming mga learning gaps, no, nagkaroon ng shift from the usual classroom to online, which is not the usual thing that the DepEd is doing, no? So the creation of a 10-year plan will really matter for the next 10 years kasi from this point, no, we have seen the result of the EDCOM2 report, no, na talagang may malala tayong learning crisis, no, and masyadong hindi yun magandang paningin para sa atin na nasa education sectors. It's because yung ating mga bata, no, na tinitrain ngayon will not become too effective also in the future.
And this EDCOM report really exposed a lot of the weaknesses in our education system, Serafin. Ano? I think the most alarming data there was that a lot of our students are functionally illiterate. After grade 3, hirap na sila sumabay, ano, sa curriculum. But for you, what would you say are areas that need the most urgent attention? Is it sa teachers, sa classrooms, or sa curriculum?
Nako, lahat yan ay salik ng importansya ng ano. In terms of the teachers kasi, no, after the pandemic, no, may dynamics na kailangang mabuo for the teacher to become effective. So most of the time, no, itong pumasok tayo sa after ng post-pandemic, no, marami tayong mga tinatawag na new priority concern. Lalong-lalo na sa part ng teacher, halimbawa yung mga trainings, no, masyado tayong hindi nabulaga doon sa nangyaring katatapos na pandemic natin, and marami tayong nakita doon mga importanteng mga strategies na pwede dapat nating ma-continue, no, para or mapag-aralan pa. And then pagdating sa mga students naman, no, parang tingin ko itong mga batang to nasanay nung pandemic, pwedeng they can be present or not, no? So parang hindi naging masyadong maliwanag sa kanila na importante yung kanila na kailang matuto sila. So parang hindi natin alam kung if this is brought also about by the pandemic itself, no, na nagkabiglaan, nagkabulagaan na ganito pala ang magiging sistema ng pag-aaral. And of course, no, salik din diyan yung tinatawag natin na curriculum kasi as of this time, no, the DepEd has not been doing a very good way of really making our curriculum fit for the students, no. Andyan yung kakasimula pa lang natin ng K-12, no, na nagkaroon ng maraming mga issue din niya sa K-12 regarding preparation ng teacher, kahandaan, no, there are so many learning competencies na masyadong full pack na kailangan aralin pa, no. So parang dumaan sa proseso na parehong yung estudyante at saka yung teacher ay nag-aaral, no. So kaya doon tayo nagkaroon ng malaking learning gaps na ngayon ay inaani natin dahil hindi masyadong na-address ng DepEd itong mga issue to.
And of course, nandyan pa rin din yung problema ng congestion, ano? But Serafin, what would you consider as low-hanging fruits dito sa 10-year education plan? What are some of the things that can be implemented immediately?
Siyempre importante talaga natin na maiayos natin yung curriculum, no? Importante na all the stakeholders should sit together and plan for a curriculum that is attune with the call of time. Kailangan responsive yung curriculum natin, no? Most of the time kasi, no, dahil nga doon sa iniisip natin na kakatapos lang ng pandemic natin, no, na ang daming masyadong congested ng curriculum, ang daming kailangang ituro, tapos with a limited time, no, hindi masyadong natutuunan ng pansin ng mga teacher yung strategy or yung tinatawag natin na what do you call this, yung learning competencies, no. So hindi natin masyadong na-address yung learning competencies na yan. Kaya yung mga learning competencies na yan, dahil hindi naging focus masyado ng government yan, parang nag-focus tayo more on the structural thing, yung mga physical thing na may kinalaman dyan sa pagtuturo na yan. So yun yung naging result kung bakit hindi nagkaroon ng ganitong crisis, no. Yun na lang yun na lang teacher na hindi siya align doon magturo, no, dahil syempre hindi naman we also need teachers, no. So minsan may tinatawag na hindi alignment, so hindi niya dapat itinuturo yung ganyang subject pero siya yung wala nang ibang teacher na pwede magturo, so siya na nagtuturo. Right. So isa yun sa mga factors aside from dahil dito sa Pilipinas hindi naman tayo sanay na nag-go online during that time, no. So nagulat tayo, hindi naman lahat ng kabahayan ay merong internet o kaya merong gadget na pwedeng magamit. So ang tendency nun ng mga bata, hindi sila masyadong nag-focus sa kung paano sila matututo. At saka ang mga teacher hindi rin masyadong nakapag-adjust kung ano yung best way para mas makapagturo sila.
And one thing that ENET also emphasized is the need for safeguards to ensure that reforms are inclusive and effective. I wanted to zero in on that, Serafin, kasi minsan nakakalimutan natin isama sa diskusyon yung marginalized learners. So we're talking about yung out-of-school youth, yung learners with disabilities, and even yung mga indigenous peoples and those in conflict-affected areas. Ano ba ang what would you say is the most viable plan para maging inclusive itong 10-year education plan natin?
As a teacher, inclusion for me is not a slogan. No? It's a daily reality I see in my classroom and community. So if this plan truly wants to include marginalized learners, it has to meet learners where they are not from where the system wishes they were. So first, plan us and strengthen the expand flexible learning pathways, especially for out-of-school youth. Many of them didn't leave school because they didn't value education. They left because of poverty, early pregnancy, or family responsibility. So programs like ALS, community-based classes, and blended or modular learning should be treated as equal and high-quality option. So not a second-class alternative. So when learning adjusts to life, learners comes back. So for learners with disability, inclusion means more than placing them in regular classroom. The plan must ensure trained SPED teachers, assistive devices, accessible classroom, and learning materials in format that they can actually use. So as teacher, we want to help, but we can't do it alone. When the system equips us properly, learners with disability don't just participate, they thrive. For indigenous learners, inclusion starts with respect for culture and identity. So the plan should support mother tongue instruction, culturally relevant lesson, and partnership with IP elders and leaders. So when learners see their language, history, and values reflect in school, education stop feeling foreign and start feeling like it belongs to them. So in conflict affected and disasters prone area, the priority should be safe, continuous, and trauma informed learning. So that means mobile teachers, temporary learning spaces, psychosocial support, and coordination with local communities. Learning should not stop because of violence or crisis. Sometimes school is not the only safe space as a child has. So most importantly, the plan must invent in teachers on the ground, teachers on the bridge between policy and learners. So if we are trained, supported, and listen, so we can adapt lessons, stop learning race, and respond with compassion and creativity. So for me, effective inclusion happens when the plan does three things. One, it brings education closer to communities. Two, removes barriers instead of blaming learners. And three, trust teachers as partners in reform.
All right. Well, we are joining you in this call for reforms in our education system, and hopefully, this will become successful 10 years later, and we will hold our government officials accountable to that. But for now, thank you very much for your time and for sharing your insights with us. I was Serafin Molina, National President of Teachers Inc. Thank you.
Thank you.